Hi, and welcome to Don't Talk, the only talk show where you don't get to talk.
Hi.
Hi, Nish, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. Now I know Harish just told you guys that you shouldn't be talking in this chat show. But when there is a will, there is a way. Don't you think so? So I'm here to listen to your chats and I want to talk to you while we talk. So Harish,
Okay,
tell me,
okay.
what can we expect from this don't talk? You talk too much anyway. I mean, how can you not talk, Harish?
I'm sure you're also of the same kind where we talk too much. And I think that's probably the reason what happened. Let me tell you guys why are we doing this show? There's a big reason behind this. There was one day I was talking to Nish, and Nish kept on interrupting. Nish kept on interrupting. And I said, hey, what's happening? And then she said, hey, you talk too much, so you don't talk. And I said, hey, you talk too much too, so you shouldn't be talking. So then we said, why don't we both talk? Let's have a talk show that's called Don't Talk, where we both get to talk and you don't talk. And that's where we are, and we are going live today.
Well, I don't know what's going to be the end of the talk show, but then all I can promise is you're going to have lots of fun.
Yes, yes. So, what's been happening at your end, Sri? What are the things that's been happening of late? Can you just give me a little heads up on what's happening at your end?
Well, yeah, a lot of interesting things are happening, and as a lot of us have a lot of free time these days, so a lot of web browsing is happening. And while I was browsing the internet, I came across a very interesting fact. You know what happened when the British stopped or banned imports of paints in India pre-independence? Can you guess what would have happened?
For a
Well, let
while,
me
I
tell
think
you.
people must have stopped painting their houses, I guess.
Yeah, I think, initially I would have thought the same thing that in pre-independence era, India didn't have that many paints and people didn't want to paint their houses as much. We mostly had mud houses. A lot of people out there in the world thinks that India still has a lot of mud houses. That may not be true, but actually what happened is that because of that one challenge that Indians faced, four friends came up with an ingenious plan and they started the first Indian paint company in India, which ended up becoming one of the best over the last 78 years.
Ah,
Now, why did they do it? They did this because they wanted to show to the British that India has that capability and they could come up with something unique.
interesting.
That's how it all started, And eventually what happened is that they started doing everything that was well ahead of trends. So for example, coming up with the first video advertisements. At the
Ah,
time nobody thought about advertisements, they came up with video advertisements. Harish, what would you have to say about that?
oh wow, I'm really excited because I've always kind of watched these paint commercials because they're a lot more. I would say they sell a lot more on emotions and colors. And me personally, being an artist, I've kind of spent a lot of time with paints, and paints is too addictive for me because it's kind of a trance. But yes. I'm very excited to know that they were one of the early pioneers to kind of start this whole thing of advertising, and the pre-independence era advertising is very unique. I've always kind of looked at those black and white where they actually used to draw the whole artworks to getting it transformed. I think that's an amazing experience, and I think those were the real true out the box days, where companies actually did something different, and it kind of born out of adversities. When you're pushed to a corner, you tend to think different and create something different. And I'm sure this is true for most of the people around the world. When you're kind of generally pushed to a corner or you're like challenged, you come out with some of your best elements. And when you talk about paint, I've always, of late, I've been kind of quite sensitive with this whole idea with paints and paints having a sense of plastic and synthetic elements, and how they have been contributing towards the environment. Not only that, but a whole lot of other elements. Largely looking at plastic. And why I'm talking this is uh, the Science Museum in Singapore is currently hosting a beautiful exhibition, which is kind of super sensitizing the people. And a very good friend and a fellow speaker, Tim Wade, had posted some amazing pictures from the exhibit. And one particular picture which really caught me, extremely out of the box, extremely creative, was this plastic bag which is floating. Just a bit of the plastic bag is out of the water, and the rest of the bag is underneath. We are kind of typically used to this glacier like images where you see it's just the tip of the iceberg and the rest. And that's so true to the story out. All the hangama, all the noise that's being created out there with regards to pollution and what plastic is doing to the environment. We're just still talking at that little portion which is outside, and what we can see, the real damage is actually happening underneath. And some of these pictures are really stunning. I would say I urge everyone to go out and look out for the science exhibit museum there in Singapore, and look at the stunning pictures that are being posted on the exhibit. And if you're in Singapore, I urge you to really drop down while you stroll around the sands in the Marina Bay area. Do drop into the exhibition center and have a look there. And it's really stunning, and it's really worth every bit of your time. And you'll come back really sensitized. And to me, I would say I was really kind of shocked and really touched at some of the pictures. A surfer surfing. There's tons of plastic waste just going around him, and I'm like, oh, how did he manage to do that? So that's
I would
the
never be
power
able to
of.
surf in such situation. Honestly, I will stop surfing.
Oh, that's nice, because I don't get to surf even in good waters because I don't know how to surf. All I know is I know to surf my internet.
I'm saying if I knew surfing. Well, I also don't know
Okay.
surfing. But what's there to just imagine that you know surfing and you are surfing on the nice, clean waters of probably Australian beaches or Filipino beaches? I really don't know. I mean, I would really love that experience. What do you say?
Oh, yes, yes. Any day I've always admired the surfers, the way they kind of hit the waves and manage and battle it out. I think that's something really interesting to look out for. I'm like, I wouldn't wish, I would say, I'll take some time out if I could get down to try out some surfing.
Well, yeah, but then what you're saying about environmental issues is very, very important. And as you talked about the tip of the iceberg of the solution, I do agree that yes, we are just touching the iceberg, just only that bit of it. However, we also must remember that every drop that we add to take care of our own environment is going to add to that. And to that, I'm going to bring back the story of this paint company, what they're doing right now after 78 years of establishment. They've created a series of paints which actually takes care of the pollution inside your houses,
Oh,
inside your rooms.
wow.
Now, that is what I call out of the box thinking, and this particular this particular brand came up with a tagline which I'm sure if I say that out loud you will know which brand I'm talking about. Have you heard of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai? Every house has its own story. Which
Oh,
brand am
yes,
I
yes.
talking about, Harish?
Asian Paints, yes, yes. How can we
Yes,
not know of a brand like that? And it's very true. It's like literally every house has the brand. I'm sure almost every house in India would talk about that. And I'm particularly very excited to know about this. Especially if a paint can kind of really pull out the pollutants inside. And I'm sure I'll try and look out for this in some of my upcoming projects. The spaces that I design. I'm seriously look at this paint right now because that's a new piece of information. I'm going to look at the paint in a very different perspective going forward from there. Because I've always
absolutely.
been in terms of paints. I've always thought. of those eco paints. You know what they say is they use the natural dyes and stuff like from extract from plants and roots and to make those colors. But generally, those colors you're kind of limited in terms of the shades and the variety. Though it kind of gives you a very authentic nature look, but then it does not apply to a wide variety of applications. But then this is completely mind blowing because I'm just thinking is synthetic paints, can they do something like this? I really want to explore this and understand more as to what that really is going to offer.
Yeah, I
Really
mean,
good piece of
I would
information for
probably
this for me.
paint my house in the same paints. When I'm making my own house, right now I live in a rented house, but when I am having my own house, probably I'll paint with a similar paint so that there is no pollutants in the house and I'm safe and sound. So is my environment. So, as they say, you find solution to every problem when you are thinking uniquely or when you are
True.
thinking from a specific point of view instead of trying to serve each and everybody. What would you have to say about that, Harish?
I've always been a firm believer of niche. The very reason you're niche, that's the reason I'm talking to you and chatting on this show with you. It is very important that we all find a little bit of a niche. And of course, think out of the box. I would say think of the out of the box is kind of a cliche. I would say you have to live out of the box. You know, you don't get confined. You know what's happened right now in this whole lockdown period, we've all been confined, we've been locked down in our spaces, we're all like constantly thinking what do we do. But the real idea is for us to move out, see if we can do something really different, be it challenging at work, at home. Haven't we all done? Most of us have kind of moved out into that kind of a phase. The ones who are struggling are the ones who've kind of frozen. They've not really tried to
Absolutely.
move out. They're like stuck at time and they're saying, hey, you know, what am I going to do? I don't know what's happening. So you're not really moving. So the trick is probably moving out and then seeking out for a lot more ideas. So which is where the whole concept of kind of living out of the box, you find solutions and then you start connecting those dots to find answer for you, because it's not going to be a straight answer. And right now it's kind of true for the entire globe, where the entire globe is going through this kind of a situation. So it's very important to connect those dots and find ideas, find products or services or situations which can make a big difference.
Yeah, I agree with you on this, Harish, completely. And to me, I'm thinking of kids. They were used to going out and playing out there. Now, the entire way they would entertain themselves, they would learn, and the way they would nurture themselves has completely changed. And their entire education system has moved to online. How has it been with you? Have a daughter, and how has it been with your daughter? Then I'll share with you how my daughter is quickly coping up with this. And we'll know how the kids are changing themselves.
Right, right. When you talked about kids and the things and stuff like that, one thing I got really connected recently was at our Rotary clubs. There's something called as Wash project, you know, where they try and go and install a lot of washing stations in schools, where they encourage kids to wash their hands frequently or at breaks, and generally in a lot of government schools and stuff like that. That kind of facility is not there. And though that was being encouraged, right now I see the need for that is almost everywhere. You know, in the last few months, from the COVID times, a set of films that we've been making for clients and stuff like that have been around COVID sensitization, or they're not so much on the marketing brand film, but then largely around best practices that they've brought in inside their company. And then there are lots of audio content and video content which is being done in terms of announcing for wash your or sanitize your hands very often, wear a face mask and stuff like that. So with that kind of a whole thing happening, I so relate to something like this coming, because this is where the next set of innovations and focus is going to happen, is where I'm seeing, you know, products like these need to really touch the market, and they need to make a difference in people's life, because we need more and more product which are going to be skin friendly, people friendly, environment friendly, and we're all thinking on all those lines. Earlier, what used to happen was just price being the only factor for choosing something. But then you're moving ahead to go down to say, like, hey, you know what? It's just not price, but I'm going to look at a whole lot of other criteria. And it's good for a whole lot of innovation that is happening on these lines. And I so look forward to a whole lot of new products coming out there.
True, true. I agree with you. In fact, when the recent lockdown happened, and I went to the nearby the neighborhood grocery store or a utility store, I found there were so many new varieties of hand sanitizers. Some of them were supposedly being organic, made from non-irritable or non-toxic stuffs and things like that. And I was like, whoa, interesting. Such quickly, such innovation happens. While I was talking about non-toxic, or I'm talking about non-toxic sanitizers, I want to bring your notice to the first time a company or someone made a non-toxic vegetable oil soap. Do you know which brand did that first in the entire world?
Oh no, this is like quite a quiz, man. I'm like, I'm
What do
sure
you
there's a
think?
lot
I'm
of
the talker. I'm going to talk about these things, isn't it? So let me tell you this quick story. In
right.
late 1800s, I'm talking about 1800s. Watch the days, right? A particular company came up with the first vegetable soap formula, and that happened to be in India.
Ah,
And what would you think when you come up with such a unique formula for the first time in the entire world? You will hold it close to your eyes. I mean, close to your heart, wouldn't you? You wouldn't
yeah,
share it with the entire world, right? That's the way we look at most innovations. We create patents, we create different kinds of ways to protect our work, protect our intelligence, and protect ourselves from different things.
true.
But this particular company did exact opposite. They printed pamphlets and send it out or distributed among everyone in the country, shared with them how did they make this soap. And
Ah,
because of this particular gesture, they actually ended up getting more and more sales. I'm going to
wow.
relate this to, I'm going to tell you which brand it is in a while. While you keep guessing, it's one of the most famous brands of India. However, I'm going to just relate this to in today's world, us speaker trainers and coaches. Most of us try to hold on to our knowledge. Most of us try to, safeguard what we do and don't share ourselves openly, thinking that we will get, ours will get copied and we will get harmed, we will get a lot of losses, etc., etc., etc. But trust me, that's not the case. Now, the brand in question I'm talking about is Godrej.
Oh,
Godrej came up with the first vegetable oil soap. And do you know who modeled for this particular soap? It was none other than Ravindranath Tagore.
oh my
I would
God.
have
Okay.
never imagined that in my entire life that a man like Ravindranath Tagore would have modeled for a soap. And the
Oh
reason he did it is
wow.
only because it was a vegetable soap, it was skin friendly, and it was Indian. So there we are.
This is serious piece of information. So, folks, whoever is listening or looking at the show right now, you are listening to $1 million worth of information. I come from an advertising fraternity. I didn't know this story at all. I'm like, niche, you really picked up some niche story out today, and I'm like super happy to listen to this. Like, who on earth would know that Rabindranath Tagore ever modeled, and that too for a soap? I'm like, Shah Rukh Khan, you need to be listening to this story, and I'm sure all the models out there, they're looking like, okay, Rabindranath Tagore modeled for a soap at some point of time, and say, wow, this is real piece of information that's out there. And I'm
Yeah.
sure this is the kind of thought, I'm saying amazing stuff from blast from the past is what I would say right now, for the kind of stories that we're getting to hear and talk about. And since we were talking about schools a bit earlier, uh, what I was really looking at in terms of connecting what you said about the soaps and niche and our schools also. Like recently, our government announced a lot of initiatives in terms of the new education policies and how they're re-looking at the whole education content. I see this is of great importance, uh, largely from a perspective that our education, what we've gone through or have been going through, is over 100 years old. We very rote kind of a system. And I was saying, I've always been kind of like, when is this going to change, or when are we expecting a change? And finally hearing this news itself was like, wow, finally I'm getting to hear something which is really out of the box, in terms of, though it's going to be a stretched out implementation process that's going to happen. But then I'm so looking forward to it, because this is going to make a big difference in terms of a lot more focus on skills. There's a lot of focus in terms of how you're thinking different, because a bulk of content that is happening in the school is so outdated, not really relevant. So that's where I see the kids kind of tune out, because they say, hey, what are we reading this for? Or why are we reading this for? And the focus is in terms of remembering some redundant data vis-a-vis what they really need to focus on. You know, there was a time probably where we didn't have computers and all that. So remembering a lot of things made importance. But today you're so with so much of gadgets, and a focus on remembering and then delivering, if that is the skill that we're focusing on, it's not. I remember some time back, there was this conversation we had with the uh, chairman of Marico, and between of Kevin Kerr, Mr. C.K. Ranganathan. He was telling, what he was trying to do is, early days of growing their business, they used to do a lot of cost cutting. They made their finance guy to go and head operations. And then they saw was this like, just because the guy was there with them for a long time and you thought the finance guy can go and do that, it does not happen. You might be the greatest horse in the world, but then you can't climb trees.
That's so true.
So if
You cannot. You
so if you
totally
have to
cannot.
climb trees, don't get a horse. So you need to put the right people for the right element. And so is our education and with the schools. There could be kids who are extremely talented with, say, art or other aspects. Why are you like hammering them with, say, vernacular subjects, or like hammering them on science? They may not be. Then there are guys who are very good with that. Get them to do that. And let's not fall into the trap. And when I'm talking about this, I'm so reminded of this legend, Ken Robinson. He's been always spoken about, thoughts of him, what he spoke always resonates. And I've been a firm believer of that, because it's probably in our schools and our education that somewhere we kind of not really been allowed to go out of the box. But then uh, the systems in schools and homes have kind of defined the box. Even as a child, when you were really out of the box, but then somewhere the system and situations around you pulled you to be like, defined a box, imaginary box around you, and said, this is what you need to be in, and this is what the world wants to it. And then you travel through your life journey, and then it's several years down the line, and then if you question, and then you start wondering, why am I sitting inside this? And then you tend to step out and try and do
I think you're absolutely right in that, and I mean one image that comes in my mind while we are talking about this, and I had to butt in here. I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
But the thing is, this particular image is always there in my mind. So this was circulated sometime back in different social media, and here a line of kids, a queue of kids are going to the school, right? And they have a circle or different shapes of heads, very different shapes of heads. Some have circle, some have a square, some have triangle, etc., etc., etc. Right? And when they go and sit down in the class, this heads get completely shaped into only squares. So all the kids' heads get shaped into the same size of square. And I can completely relate with you on this when we are talking about creating general lists and making sure that everybody fits into the bill, fits into the box. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm thinking of when you're talking about this. Go ahead, you were saying something interesting as well.
Oh, no, no, no. Very valid point that you got out. At some point of time, we kind of all getting defined in the same way and same pattern, and our life is largely defined as the box. And to be something out of the box is to really look outside that, and that's where the magic happens. I can tell you our examples. We've been doing a lot of work in terms of designing spaces, making kind of films and stuff like that. uh, when this whole pandemic happened, and a traditional what are the set of work and the films that we were doing, it all came down to a standstill. And it's so true for a whole lot of people out there, and the story is same for them too. But what was really needed was, I'm saying, okay, if I can use my skills to do something else different, can I get online to do courses there, and so was the lead there. From there, I said, okay, let me put my video production skills, why not make it a course out there? And I see a lot of people needing that, because video is going to become like a primary mode of communication going forward, because that's the tool that we all need. Because today we all sell to the lens, we sell to the camera, because that's our
I'm
customer, because
looking at
our
the camera
customers.
right now.
Yes, and the reason we are talking today, are probably, I don't know, like we've known each other for a few years. We've never gone ahead and made a talk show before, but thanks to the situation around us, which has kind of made us think and say, hey, you know what, you need to go ahead and do something like this. And that's the very point at which we start doing something different, and that's very,
Very
very
true.
critical.
Very, very true. And I mean, I completely agree with you on that. I am equally excited about the educational reforms that Indian government is bringing out. Of course, we need to see how this will be implemented to a of large country like ours. We have huge, population. We have different cultures and other things. But having said that, what excites me is, as a kid, when I had to pursue through a certain subject, I wasn't allowed to. I was told that you needed to be master of all, or rather, jack of all and master of all, which is essentially not possible, right? So I'm
True.
happy for the students of this generation and the kids of this generation and the generation that will come after this, that they will have the opportunity to choose a specialism instead of being a generalist in everything. And therefore, they will be way ahead of all of us to create their mark in this world and leave a legacy in this world for themselves. The question is, are we ready for such kind of situation?
True. It's the big question. It's the big question, because we're all wondering: are we ready to handle a situation? Are we ready to go that? It's about that movement. You need to take that flight and move out from that static fixation point. And the moment you start moving out, or I would say even not even move out, you start seeking out or start looking out. That starts making the difference. Like even in my keynotes and all that, I always say this whole very important point. We always have a lot of guys who question things. Why should we do this? Why should we do that? Why should we do that? But then there's always this bunch of set of guys who say, why not we try this? Why not that? Why not this? And if you target the guy who says why not, are the guys who are willing to experiment. They are willing to take the risk, and they know very well, when I say why not, I'm taking that big risk. With that big risk comes consequences. If I fail, I face the brick bat. But then, being creative, being out of the box is a high risk, high return game. If your stakes are
Totally,
high,
totally.
your returns are good.
Totally with you on that. In fact, I would go ahead and say, even if you face a failure while you're trying something new, you actually don't fail. You learn another way that you shouldn't be doing it. Like
True,
Thomas Edison always said, right? That I have tried thousand ways how not to make the
true.
bulb,
How not to make it.
and then I realized how to make it. And if I hadn't tried it, I wouldn't learn that many ways not to make the bulb. Now, that's where I would leave it here, saying that, are you trying to take that little risk in your life to take a bigger leap of faith, which can take you to higher flights and solve a lot of your dreams and aspirations for you? Because unless you take an action, Nobody else will. And unless you take that one step ahead, nobody else will on your behalf. And you will keep dreaming while in sleep. You will not be chasing your dream when you are awake.
Oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. Because, like they say, don't sleep over your dreams. Like, I used to tell my friends, back in my school days, what do you want to be? I said, I want to have a career or something where I'm allowed to dream every day. And if somebody is going to pay me for dreaming, nothing like it. And somewhere that statement has stuck to me in a subconscious way. So what I do over the years, in terms of be it my films, be it designing spaces or speaking, it's always been to do around with dreams. You're building dreams for people, you're giving shape to somebody's dreams, you're giving shape to an idea. So it's all about dreams. If you can do that, act on your dreams, put a structure to it, put a shape to it, nothing like it. And in that whole process, you kind of think out of the box, and then, like you say, find that little niche for yourself in that, and craft that for yourself, and you have something great to going forward. And
Yes, tell me more about it.
yeah, yeah, I'm a little more excited here because I have to make an announcement that Niche is coming out with her speaking mastery course, which is out there, and it's going to be up there in outtheboxacademy.com. You also have the video production courses. There is a series of whole lot of other courses coming up. We're having some courses on personal branding, coaching, video production, all these lined up. So go do check out www.outtheboxacademy.com. Very soon, there's going to be a lot of action coming up. We'll also send you the links in the comments below for the courses and stuff like that. Do tune in there, and we'll be up there next week as well with another edition of Don't Talk. See, what do you have to say?
Yes. Yes, you're right. I'm excited as well that we have collaborated. We have, you know, tapped into each other's, I would say, strengths and taken that next flight to take ourselves to the next level. Now it's your turn as our viewers to do that for yourself. Are you? I'm going to leave you with a couple of questions and also tell you what we are coming up with next week slightly so that you're excited about it. So, the couple of questions that you need to ask yourself is that are you thinking out the box with yourself, with your life, with your profession, with your family, and every aspect of your life? If yes, have you carved a specialty, a space for yourself, what I call a niche, right? These are two things that's going to take you to the next level, which is going to make you much more successful than you are today. Second thing that I'm going to tell you is I hope you love the stories today that we shared, the learnings from them, and you came to know something interesting and exciting. Trust me, next week will be even better with even better and bigger stories. So I would love to see you there. Until then, have fun, work on your dreams.
And don't talk. See you guys. Bye bye.